Myrtle Beach is the place to be if you love all things sunny and beachy. Millions of tourists visit the city each year, hoping to soak up the sun and spend memorable days in the South Carolina capital of fun. But there are dangerous creatures lurking beneath the waves of fun and the literal waves. And these dangerous creatures are always hungry. And tasty tourists come in handy. This is the story of Karen Seitz, a woman who had a scary encounter with a shark, all under the horrified gaze of her grandson. This is fierce. It was August 15, 2022, a beautiful sunny day, perfect for the beach. 55-year-old Karen Seitz and her family had traveled from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, to spend an unforgettable vacation. They were all more than excited, especially Karen's grandchildren. The family had been planning this trip for over a year. Now, Karen and her husband were finally able to provide their grandchildren the perfect context to make some awesome memories. The kids were over the moon. Karen was too. She had always loved the beach ever since she was a child. There was nothing better than the gentle touch of the sun on her skin, and nothing better than the sound of the waves. August 15th was only the family's second day in Myrtle Beach, but they were already certain everything would be perfect during their stay. How could it not be when they were in one of the most iconic resort cities in the country? Located on the east coast of the United States in Horry County, South Carolina, Myrtle Beach is one of the major tourist centers in the states. Over 20 million tourists choose Myrtle Beach as their vacation destination each year. Maybe it's because of its subtropical climate, or maybe it's because of its miles and miles and miles of beaches. But the city is magnetic. The Grand Strand, an arc of beachland whose primary city is Myrtle Beach, has hundreds of hotels, thousands of restaurants, and tens of golf courses. Myrtle Beach is home to numerous events. It's a city that generally guarantees a good time, equal time relaxation, and more hectic activities. However, not everyone is lucky enough to engage with Myrtle Beach the way they were supposed to. That's what 55-year-old Karen Seitz found out on Monday, August 15, 2022. The day started out beautiful. The sun was up, the sky was blue. The waves of the Atlantic were singing. You know, the proverbial idyllic day at the beach. Karen Seitz and her husband were lying on the beach, carefully supervising their grandchildren. The kids were playing in the sand, happy and at peace. Around afternoon, Karen had an idea. She told her grandchildren they should get in the water, either for a swim or a fun splash. But once they got into the water, the kids' reaction surprised the 55-year-old grandmother. "What if there are sharks? What if there are sharks?" they kept asking. It was strange. Usually, Karen's grandchildren loved the water and never complained about a quick swim. Karen decided that despite the strangeness of the reaction, her grandchildren's worry was just a normal, childish fear. It was her duty as a grandmother to reassure them. "Oh, don't be afraid. It's so rare that anybody ever gets bit by a shark," Karen told the kids. The woman then waited just a few feet away from Brian, her 8-year-old grandson. She was in waist-high water. The water felt nice until it suddenly didn't anymore, and Karen was left fearing for her life. It seemed like her grandchildren's words were more than a childish fear. In retrospect, their words were prophetic. In an instant, a creature jumped out of the water and latched its teeth on Karen's right arm. It was a shark, and a hungry one at that. At first, Karen felt a sharp pain, a pain unlike any other she'd ever felt before. In the first few seconds, the woman had no idea what kind of creature had attacked her. In fact, she thought it was anything but a shark. If she had to guess, she would have said it was a jellyfish currently attached to her arm. But when Karen Seitz looked down, she came face to face with the truth. Her attacker was indeed a shark. As soon as the woman realized what was happening, she acted. It had more to do with her strong survival instinct than with her giving much thought about the right way to proceed. The woman used her left arm to push the creature away and shockingly, it worked. It was like the shark only wanted to get a small taste, though the bite was anything but small. Brian Seitz, Karen's 8-year-old grandson, watched in shock, only a couple of feet away. He had seen everything. The shark jumping out of the water, latching itself on Brian's grandma's arm, waving its tail, and then finally letting go and falling down into the water. And as if that sight hadn't been scary enough, he was now faced with the sight of a bloody, terrified Karen. The woman and her grandchildren hurried toward the shore. Once they made it to the beach, they were surrounded by people. The racket was deafening. People were yelling, trying to warn others about the danger lurking beneath the waves. Others were still in the water, making their way toward the shore in an erratic manner. It was madness. Karen was still in shock once she got on the beach. She kept saying she didn't want to see her arm. She could feel the sharp pain and the blood trickling down her arm. Luckily, help was seconds away. An ER worker who happened to be at the beach heard the noise and rushed to help Karen, washing the woman's injured arm with bottled water. Minutes later, Karen Seitz was taken to the hospital where she underwent surgery. Hundreds of stitches later, Karen was ready to start her way toward recovery. She had suffered damage to her ring finger as well, but the surgery was a success. She was released from the hospital only a day after the attack. Despite this, doctors couldn't guarantee Karen's arm would ever be the same. The shark had actually somewhat damaged the woman's nerves and tendons as well. All things considered, though, the injuries could have been so much worse. Not to mention, Karen's grandchildren could have been hurt too. And they were, in a sense. 8-year-old Brian Seitz, who had witnessed the whole thing, was left traumatized by the attack and the possibility of losing his grandmother in front of his very eyes. But the Seitz didn't let the attack destroy their vacation. They decided to stay in Myrtle Beach for the week and try to enjoy the city's other attractions. They even visited the beach again, though Brian decided to stick to sunbathing and playing on the sand. "I'll sit on the sand, but I ain't going in the water," the little boy told reporters. There was another shark attack on Monday, August 15th, only about half a mile away from where Karen was bitten. This time, the victim was luckier. The second attack was a more glancing bite to the leg, with no real repercussions. 4 shark attacks were reported in South Carolina a year before, in 2021. Experts advise against swimming in the ocean at dawn or dusk when sharks approach the coast to feed, to leave the water when schools of fish are seen close to the surf, and to avoid areas where people may be using bait to fish. Daniel Abel, a professor of marine science at Coastal Carolina University, said this after Karen Seitz's ordeal. "It's very important that we treat our sharks, our ocean, and our entire planet with more respect than we do now."